We're just waiting on Mr. Taylor, getting him situated. What you gotta do, brother? Come over here, because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started real quick, guys. Want to say thank you again for being here. For those of you that have been down here, some of you have been down here a couple hours now. You are officially basement dwellers. Yeah. Just want to say, on behalf of these guys, this has been an incredible weekend so far and mind-blowing. I haven't even had a chance to really talk to Skiba at all. Barely get to talk to you. Barely got a chance to talk to you. I've talked to you way too much. Just kidding, bro. Yeah, we were up late again last night. I can say this. What Chris and Liz and the staff have done, and I said this yesterday, you know, give them a round of applause so they can hear it. Chris asked me last night, just so you guys know, he said, well, should we do it again next year? I'm like, yeah. We're going to tell the Indians, Cleveland Indians, we're going to come over. So why not? You have to answer it now. Yeah, answer. All right. Let's do this. Chad Taylor, I'll let you. Well, you guys do your introductions.
All right. Do we stand or do we stay sitting?
Do whatever you want.
Stand? Okay. So, just going back intro. All right. So I'm originally born and raised in Montana. I kind of mentioned that in the beginning of my book, but just grew up loving the outdoors. Grew up in a Christian household, but it was more just a traditional going through the motions for me. And then ended up, you know, getting into business, but struggling a lot prior to that, trying to be a musician and an artist, and just kind of wasn't really going anywhere. So eventually, I sought out mentorship, and God blessed me with some incredible people, some incredible examples, and so definitely wouldn't be where I'm at today without the people He's put in my life. So anyway, long story short, moved to Seattle, started another business, and happened to, through a series of many events, get into this subject. So I'm very humble, very blessed to be here. And I don't know about you guys, but I've certainly felt just this thankfulness to see where we're at, just to see how good God really is to us. We're very, very blessed. So, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm a lifelong artist, and I actually managed to make a living out of it. I've been a 3D animator, photographer, and illustrator for 39 years now. And full-time, which is pretty cool. A lot of hard years, but I have a wonderful wife, and we've made a pretty good life for ourselves. And then one day I hear about this subject, and I thought for sure I was reading the Bible literally, until I heard about this. I said, oh boy, I screwed up. So I was transformed from the eternal space cadet to really learning what the scripture says about cosmology. And it's a real honor to be a part of this. I mean, to be in a room full of people that actually like to think. You know, I mean, that's rare. So this has been an exciting time for me, and so I'm looking forward to next year.
What's your name, Michael?
My name is Michael Solomon, and I'm not used to this yet.
Michael, where are you from?
I am from Cleveland, Ohio.
A lot of Cubs fans in here, huh? If you were in here just a little bit ago, my name's Rick Hummer. I got into this mess because of that guy. That guy. And Mark Sargent. So thank you, Mark Sargent, if you're watching this. And you know, I just ask that you pray for a lot of the people that have kind of been in this. You know, none of us are any different than anybody else. Trust me on that. And it's been, like you said, it's very humbling. But I also believe that this is all a calling. I truly believe this. Rob touched base on this with the awakening, and I do believe that there's a a common denominator behind this, you know, and not to be sounding weird, but God does say that His ways are a mystery to us. So if you can figure that out, I don't think you're right. Robbie Davidson here.
Oh, by the way, I heard a cover.
My name is Robbie Davidson. I reside in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I just put on the first Canadian Flat Earth Conference, and it was wonderful to be with Rick and Rob. And as I continue to go on this journey, it's just amazing the circle and the group of men and women that we encounter and the stories we hear. This topic definitely has changed things for me in so many ways. And while I've been in ministry for over 20 years, I've never seen a topic so extraordinary. It's one of the greatest witnessing opportunities I've ever seen in my life. Something is happening so remarkable, and I mentioned this in both of my sessions. But when you can actually look behind you when you're fighting this war, and all of a sudden you got this army of people, and they're fighting with you, and they don't know who they're fighting for, but they know the enemy. To me, it's a remarkable time that we've just got so many people exposing the same lies that we've been basically doing, you know, for the longest time. And we have so many people now behind us. So it's a great honor to be here. I'm so thankful to Chris and Liz. It's an honor to come out. I'm kind of the new kid on the block as well, you know, definitely when it comes to, you know, these areas. And it's been an extraordinary time meeting all of you. And like I said, I'm just excited for what God has planned next.
Hi, my name is Rob Skiba. And I'm a biblical earther. I'm a recovering spheroid.
Give this man some water.
That's kind of what this is starting to feel like these days.
Give this man some water.
You know, obviously you've heard, if you came to the last couple of sessions, you know my journey, what brought me here. Kicking and screaming like pretty much anybody, you know, that grew up with Star Wars and Star Trek and wanting to be an astronaut and the Apollo space program and all that stuff. But like Robbie said, you know, I've been in ministry really my entire life. I mean, got saved at age 7, and we used to have Vacation Bible School. You guys remember Vacation Bible School? Oh, yeah. In my parents' front yard, and I've always been very evangelical. You know, in New England, where I grew up in Massachusetts, it was predominantly Catholic, and you know, we were the Baptists having the weird Bible studies in the front yard and whatever. But had, you know, really good results there. And you guys remember the Chick Tracts, those little comic books? Yeah, I used to have the whole collection. I would bring them to school, and my friends, they all loved them. They're like, hey, Skiba, you got any more of those little comic books? Yeah. So they'd give it to me, and we'd have, you know, good conversations, you know. I've always been very evangelical, and I have always had a lot of success in sharing my faith with people. Later in life, you know, we held Bible studies in our secular high school. In the Army, we were called the God Squad. There was me and a few other guys that called us the God Squad. And we ministered in the Army. Then eventually I became a full-time missionary at a international missions organization and traveled the world doing standard evangelism. So I have been involved in some form of evangelism really my entire life. I have never seen anything that comes even remotely close to the kind of success that we have seen in harvesting people for the kingdom like this topic. Unbelievable. Last night, as I was getting ready to get on stage to speak, a guy came up to me, and I don't know if he's in this room or not, but he came up to me and he basically said, look, I'm not really on your page. I don't really believe all this stuff yet, but I got to tell you something. You know, a good friend of mine that I've been trying to reach for a long time was an atheist, and he's come over to the kingdom because of this topic. So it's basically go get him, you know. I know. I mean, this gentleman right here shared a similar testimony, and one after another we keep hearing it. Like, and you got others trying to say this is a psyop, right? This is a government CIA psyop or a psyop of the devil. I'm like, what? You show me anywhere in Scripture where the devil's motive is to get people to dive into the Scriptures like they never have before, to start keeping the commandments, to start showing up and, you know, keeping Passover and the Sabbath and recognizing Yeshua as their Savior. Show me anywhere where there's a precedence for that in Scripture that is the devil's motive. Sorry, I don't believe that. I believe that this is a move of the Holy Spirit. I can't explain it any other way. The hundreds, if not thousands, of testimonies that have come in and continue to come in is what's keeping me going. I can't speak for everybody else, but you know, I wanted to give up more times than I can count. And every time, and it's just so crazy because I'd be like dragging myself to my PO box at the post office, going, "Hey, why? I'm just gonna get a job at Walmart. Forget it. I'm done." You know, and I walk into the post office, there's this guy standing there in scrubs, I guess he was like a nurse or a doctor or something, and he's looking at me, he goes, "You can't quit, man." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, and he shares his testimony, he recognized me, he recognized his testimony, he's like, "You cannot stop, man, you have to keep doing what you're doing." I'm like, "Dude, let me tell you what I was just thinking 10 minutes ago." No, you can't quit. And this has happened so many times. And this is just telling me God is in this, you know, so that's why I'm doing it.
I can attest to Rob's struggle. I was with him a couple times when
I was having a meltdown.
with meltdown, yeah, and I'm glad I was there. I'm glad I got to see that, because if I didn't see that, if I didn't see the effect that this had on him, and before the session we had it was Flat Earth, it was the struggle and the solution, and I don't think there's going to be a time where there's not a struggle with this, because the lie is so deep and it's so engraved in our minds, and I do believe that the solution is this. It's God's movement on the people that want to learn and understand. And I will say this too, when Rob said that he's never seen, Robbie said this and Rob said this, and we've all agreed on this. We've not seen anything like this in our lives that has caused confrontation, controversy, conflict, and also a belief. And I do believe that this whole thing is all about the intimacy of wanting to know and to learn. I really do. I believe that's something that God puts on our heart, because I don't think any of us, like I've said this before, I never woke up one morning going, "I'm going to be a flat earther, yay!" You know, and everyone's going to love me for it. It's just not going to happen. But I do believe that this struggle that we're under, it's going to be, it's fun, because we've all grown in this. I know I have. I know these guys have. And also know that the list of people, the emails, I've seen Rob's, I've seen people come up to Robbie at the other conferences. Michael and I've talked about it. Your book, I went through your book again last night. It's awesome. Thank you for that. Yes. So, and to know that this growth that's happening, this true movement, none of us have done this on our own. You know, and and each of these conferences that I've gone to where we're talking about this subject, man, I'm telling you, the attitude of the people is awesome. You just see this look in their eye, this shimmer in their eyes, like, I'm so thankful I know this now. And what is it that sets you free? Truth. And I believe this is the truth. I really do. I know it is. When you know, you know, you know, you know, you know. And I don't think that this is my heart deceiving me here on this one. There's no way. So, on that note, do you want me to do some Q&A? Is there anything else you guys want me to do? Just open it up. Yeah, and if we can do this, if you guys can just ask your questions loud, and if somebody can't hear, I'll repeat them, because the microphone's not going to reach, and we've only got one mic.
One side at a time for each question.
Yeah. So let's start over here. Anybody have a question over here first? We'll start with this group. Anybody?
Yeah.
Go ahead, brother.
Okay, so my question is, one of the things that we're kind of indoctrinated with since we were young.
One of the things that we're not, I'm just trying to
including, like, you know, the globe revolver is dinosaurs. It kind of substantiates the theory that, you know, we couldn't have been here if not for millions and billions of years of evolution over time. So my question, I guess, is, what is your take on, you know, obviously what we're given as the story of dinosaurs can't quite be true in the physical sense, but what's your take on the discovery of, you know, skeletons.
Skiba, take that one.
Yeah, I know there are some people in this so-called truther movement that are saying dinosaurs are a hoax. No, dinosaurs are real. I know good, godly believers that are in archaeology and paleontology and that have actually been given credit for discovering, full intact, skeletal remains of dinosaurs and stuff. So, yes, there are many cases where you go to a museum and there's one tiny bone and the rest of it's made of clay or something else. Yes, that's true. In some cases, that's because there's only one dinosaur that was found, and you got multiple museums that have, replicas of that. So, that's part of it. But I definitely believe dinosaurs exist. I can't speak for everybody else on this panel here, but my belief is that Behemoth and Leviathan that is spoken of in the book of Job represent dinosaurs. Specifically, the Behemoth, when it talks about its tail moves like a cedar tree, sorry, some of the modern English translations say that it's a hippo or an elephant. I'm like, you ever look at the tail of a hippo? A little elephant? Like, really? His tail moves like a cedar tree? It's a pretty good description of a sauropod, class dinosaur. But it is my belief that God did create a variety of dinosaurs that were vegetarian class likely, because everything I think was initially that way, and that man started doing genetic engineering to create the Velociraptor, T-Rex type things. And they're trying to say now that birds are proof of dinosaurs, and that T-Rex and the birds have the same genetic makeup and stuff. And when you look at the skeletal structure and the argument that they're making for that case, I'm going, okay, now wait a minute. And T-Rex is a bipedal, stands up on two legs. It has these two human-looking arms that are pretty much useless for it. And it has this, crocodile-like head to it and long tail. I'm like, okay, what if you took a sauropod-class dinosaur and blended it genetically with an eagle or something of that nature, and maybe some other kind of lizard, and maybe even a human? You might end up with a T-Rex-looking creature that would have those various attributes. And people laugh and scoff at that, except for the fact that we are doing these types of experiments today. And even pop culture is starting to show some of these things in various X-Men type movies and whatnot, showing these hybrid creatures and stuff like that. And my studies that I was doing before this dealt a lot with transhumanism and the Nephilim and all that kind of stuff. And when you read in Joshua 4:18 and Jubilee 7:24, I believe, of the addresses, it specifically tells you in the last 120 years leading up to the flood, men were blending species. And God said, you better knock it off. You got 120 years to knock it off. And if you don't, I'm going to have to wipe out everything, because you are destroying everything that I created in their original kind and called good. And Yeshua says, as it was in the days of Noah, so it would be at the coming of the Son of Man. And that's the exact same activity that we are seeing scientists mess around today, genetic engineering, blending species together. So I believe that the more dangerous, Velociraptor, meat-eater type dinosaurs were likely genetically engineered from a pre-existing kind that God had originally created. That's my take on the dinosaurs.
Good answer.
Yeah.
500 points for Rob. All right, question over here. Anybody? I'm going to go around. It's like at an auction.
The Bible is true,
Amen.
right?
Yeah.
The earth is flat. We know it. We need an event, right? You think?
FEIC.
We know
18.
this, we know that. We need something that everybody.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, you know what event's going to be? You know what event that's going to be? When the sky opens up.
I know.
Every knee is going to bow. Everyone's going to see it. It's going to be simultaneous.
Is there something that we can do as a group? We have so much talent here. What is the thing that we need to do?
Are you thinking about going out to the outer boundaries, or what are you worried
Well,
about?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking. What would do it?
Here's my frustration with this. If you guys have followed the videos and stuff that I've done the last 3 years or so, you know that Rick and I specifically have spent quite a lot of money and time doing various tests that we're trying to. Well, we appreciate that, thank you, but the results were almost always inconclusive. Inconclusive in the sense that if you're a flat earther, you look at what we did and say, yeah! But if you're a ball earther, aha, Skiba just proved the globe, you know. And they'll have all the yeah but reasons for why the results that we got back up the globe and not what we did. And I'm going to share this in my presentation tonight, actually, but I'll give you a preview of it right now. Is when I read in 2 Thessalonians that God describes, or Paul's writing, and he's describing the Antichrist beast system. And in that dialogue, he says, because you do not have a love of the truth, and the context would be God's truth, it says God sends a strong delusion so that they will believe the lie. That means Rob, Rick, and anybody else here is not going to undo it. And that's been my frustration. Is I'm like, come on, God, can you help me out here? All I'm trying to do is take a stand on your word. Can you give us that one solid proof, you know, experiment that, no. It really comes down to, are you going to believe me or not? If you believe me first, you're going to see lots of things. If you don't believe me, there's no experiment any of us are going to be able to do. Even if one comes back from the dead. Even if I touch the dome on video. Skiba's a CGI guy, see? And that guy over there, Mike saw, he just told you he's a 3D expert. So they got together and they made a video. Right? There'll be every excuse in the world why it's not going to work. So, and this is why I'm feeling like I want to work on seed. That's what my real calling is, and why I want to step back, because I feel like I'm just repeating myself. What more can I say that I haven't already said in 150 videos? And I've tried to make the biblical case, and we try to do experiments. You know, we did the Lake Michigan test, we did 2 balloon launches, and some other tests, laser tests, and all kinds of stuff. Look, I don't have any more time or money to keep doing that. To just come up with inconclusive results every time, come back extremely depressed, and just, you know, when I'm fighting against God, ultimately. I'm trying to defend God's word, but he said, if you're not going to believe me, he's going to send a delusion that you will believe the lie, which means I'm not going to undo it.
That's kind of it. Anything you guys want to add to that? Anything you want to add or something you want to bring up? Go ahead.
Yeah, and you know, I was talking to somebody, you last night, I think it was, at lunch, about doing tests, if I remember right. And I think it was you had asked me. And so back in 2015, I was doing lots of tests. I was recording videos, looking out over water mostly, you know, any other tests, because I was like, I wanted to see it for myself, kind of thing. Well, over time, I have stopped doing tests, and I really have no interest in doing any more tests. But however, it's almost like the you know, the body of Christ is like, I'm a pinky, but the people doing tests in this are the ring finger, and it's like, I'm not going to say they're wrong for doing tests. That's what they're called to do, and I'm just sticking with what does God's word say, what does the Bible say about Earth, period, and that's what I'm called to do. And I'm kind of overdoing tests personally, but other people are not, and that's what God's calling them to do. And so I've heard other people, why aren't you doing this, why aren't you doing that? Well, I'm doing what God called me to do. There's other people doing what you're saying that I should be doing already. So, if that makes sense. So.
There's one more thing I would say.
There are other people, and this is exciting, because, you know, all of us got into it as skeptics, every one of us. And so we all started thinking, well, what can we do? You know, so we, you know, thought of long distance tests, laser tests, and things like that. Infrared is something that's Jay Tolan Media, I think is the guy's name. I'm going to show a clip tonight in my presentation about that. The infrared tests are really cool because they kind of eliminate the refraction issues and things that, you know, some of the arguments people have made with some of the other observations that have been done. Optically, you run into all kinds of problems. And water, unfortunately, is what you really have to use because it maintains level, right? Maintains level. With topography on land, you know, you really have to do a lot of survey work to make sure there's no elevation issues that are taking place. So with water, you know, you're not gonna have, you know, mountains and valleys of water. It's just gonna be a thing. So, but unfortunately, water causes all kinds of visual aberrations and problems and refraction that mess with you. So the infrared stuff, if anybody here has infrared technology, and those are some good tests, because lasers have some of the same problems, you know, with the atmosphere and stuff like that. The infrared seems to be a really good thing, and the microwave test. That's the next big one that I think, and actually that's already been done. There's a company, I forget the name of the company, but they did a microwave. It's a direct line of sight. It is a direct line of sight. If there's something in the way, it doesn't work. And they beamed the microwave from Cyprus to Lebanon. It's like over 100 miles or something like that, I think. Straight line of sight, boom, impossible on a ball. Can't be done. And so, you know, that's a good one. This is a company that has no dog in the flat earth hunt. So, you know, they're just out there developing technology. So we're like, all of them, so much the better. Look, here's these guys inadvertently proved what we've been trying to say all along, is that there's no evidence of curvature.
Yeah, that's well.
And that's this group that I've been a part of it from the beginning. It's called FE Core, and that's one of the tests that we're doing. We did the laser test over Lake Isle, which was 30 centimeters below sea level. We were actually down below, across the road from the ocean, and it was 25.4 miles across. We set the laser up on one side, and I drove an hour and 10 minutes around the lake, went to the other side. The first test we did was 18 miles. That was the easiest thing to see. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, no way, that's really 18 miles from here? Like, yeah, you could see it perfectly. It was awesome. By the time we went over to the 25 miles, though, the first night, it got humid. Once again, Rob brought up the water. It distorts. It does all kinds of weird things. Just like last night. Where's Ian at? Is Ian down here? Yeah, Ian and I were right there. We were out here at the binoculars on the hill during the big session. We walked out there, and I was looking at Cedar Point, and I'm going, what is going on here? I thought, well, I'm going to try and get video just to compare the video of that particular binocular, those binoculars, and my iPhone, going up to it, trying to get it. I'm focusing so hard getting the lens, I don't realize, and he kind of giggled, and I'm like, and I realized, I'm like, wait a minute, they shut the lights off at the park. I'm like, what time is it? I was like, oh, it must be on a timer. So I'm looking, and all of a sudden I look back up, and I realize, wait, no, it's coming back. It's slowly coming back. The rain came across between us and Cedar Point. We weren't getting the rain. It was just rain. And it made a wall. It made a curtain. It's the same thing that Rob and I experienced with the Chicago test that we did. There was humidity. But we prayed that day. That was the other thing I want to bring up. The power of prayer in this, God will give you the wisdom. He will give you if you ask for it. But if you don't want it, like Rob said, he's gonna let you believe the lie. And that's where I think a lot of this is coming in, is there's some prideful people that are sitting there proclaiming the blood of Jesus that aren't really truly humble enough to go, could this be true? Could this really be true? And if it is true, what does it really mean? And what I said in this last session was that if we really look at this for what it is, if this is truly the nature of what this creation is, and I do believe that it's a nice, intimate creation that He had us in mind the entire time. The entire time. This is His plan. This is His story. We just get to be a part of it. And if that's the case, I'm telling you, I actually do feel much smaller in this knowledge now than what I did feel when I was like with space. And it sounds so opposite, but it's really not. Think about it. If I thought for the longest time that I could jump in a starship someday, maybe in my lifetime, I'll get to go to another planet. I'll get to see all these people. That's like, oh, hey, what's up, neighbor? I don't feel small. I feel like, oh, this is going to be cool. But man, when you look at it, you realize, wow, I really need Him to understand what's going on for the eternal. This is to get us ready for what is to come. And it's humbling. But at the same time, it makes you want to jump off the rooftops and go, it's flat! It's flat! You know?
The prayer thing, when we did the Chicago skyline, it took over a year to plan it. Because we were up against weather issues, and there's certain times of the year that it's just plain dangerous to go on the lake. And you know, we're thinking, let's do like November, December, whatever it was that we were thinking. Because one of the things we've also learned when you're doing stuff over the water, it's the colder the better. You're not going to have as much stuff as what the heat generates. And you know, Rick's talking to various boat captains and stuff at boat clubs and stuff, and they're like, what, do you got a death wish or something? You know, no, we're not going on a lake, you know, to do that. So there were, you know, timing issues, weather issues, money issues, lots of issues. And when it came down to the time that we actually did do it, there was like a window of about 10 days that, because of my schedule and other things, I'm like, dude, if it's going to happen, this is the only time that I could do it. And for a few days leading up to that window, it was raining. In fact, I think it rained this storm like a day before, a day or two before. Anyway, we pull out, and the first guy that we booked a charter with canceled or something, and long story short, we ended up with the guy that we did get. And we pull out of the dock, we're 46 miles away. We pull out of the dock, and I turn and I look, and there's the city, boom, right there. I didn't even need my P900, it was like right there. I'm like, wow. You know, because our thing was, the weatherman said what we're seeing is a mirage. Rick's like, that ain't no mirage. I'm like, that ain't no mirage. He's like, I see it all the time. I'm like, let's go prove it. So we start going across, and my thinking was, if it's a mirage, then it's going to magically wave away, and then the city will roll up over the ball, and okay, there it is. If it's not a mirage, then the city's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, like camera lens, which is what happened. And we literally, from the time we pulled out of the dock, we stopped, took some pictures, and drove all the way across. It's like 2 hours or something. Went all the way across. It was there the whole time. And the boat captain guy says, and he's been on the lake like his whole life. He said, wow, this never happens. The conditions to be able to see it like the whole way, the entire time, it never happens. And if you watch the video, the highlight video that I made of it, like a 30-minute video, Rick says, prayer works, man, prayer works. Right at that point. That's what happened. Now, the first high-altitude weather balloon test, that was to debunk Mythbusters. Mythbusters had put out a video where they went up like in a U-2 spy plane or something to 75,000 feet. And look at the curvature, right? And I'm looking at that immediately. I'm like, that is fisheye lens. Totally fisheye lens.
But you can see them.
Yeah, it was. You could see the GoPros in the window that they were using. But I mean, also the footage of it was just demonstrably distorted, right? So we're like, well, you know, our goal is to debunk Mythbusters because we know we could get a balloon up higher than 75,000 feet. And so our goal was 100 plus, 110. And we got some good cameras, some good equipment, and partnered it up with this guy, Victor Brewer, put it all together, launched this balloon, and we had a live feed from the balloon. So we could actually watch it as it was going up and see the whole thing. And when it got to 75 to 80,000 feet, our monitor was like flat, boom. And so right there we're like, okay, we achieved our goal. We debunked Mythbusters because our footage showed flat right across at above their height. I think it got up to over 100,000 feet, and then the balloon pot came down, and boy, that thing goes through a lot of trauma when it comes down. And all that rubber from the balloon and everything came down, and people were like, you didn't put a tracker on it? I'm like, yeah, of course we put a tracker on it. But the tracker was in the box that the camera was attached to. And the rubber came down, and at some point in its journey downward, it smacked the camera off the box. So yeah, we found the box, but we didn't find the camera. So the whole thing got smacked off of it. So we're like, all that time, all that money wasted, bummed out. Well, we got to do this again, you know. So we did it again the second time. And the first time, the box came down pretty close to where we were. I mean, it went up and it came down pretty close to where we were. Second time, because we had trackers on there and we zip tied the heck out of that thing so it wasn't coming off of the box this time. So when we recorded the thing, you know, going up and we saw where it popped, we started watching the trajectory it's coming down, and it caught a jet stream wind and took off. So we're like, whoa, get in the car! So
We saw a lot of Ohio.
Yeah, we saw a lot of Ohio. And those of you who may have seen it, because we did it all on Facebook Live, so it was like, you know, Balloon Chasers Live, you know. we're going after the balloon now, you know. The whole conversation, like, people told us later, like, we shut down businesses for like an hour, you know, 2 hours, 10 o'clock in the morning that day, because everybody's like the Truman Show, what's going to happen? How are they going to find the balloon? And that thing, you know, we're watching the tracker, and that thing's like, it's just going all over. And we're like, it started heading towards this like nature preserve area where it was all heavily wooded areas, and we're like, oh man, if it goes there, it's gonna get tangled up in a tree. We'll never find it, right? So again, we're telling, all right guys, you gotta start praying. Everybody's Facebook Live, and they're like, we're praying, man, we're praying. And if you actually watch that footage, it's really extraordinary, because if you pay attention and look and see the topography of where the balloon was headed, and it comes across like this, and it literally takes a 45-degree turn, goes like this, and lands in like the only field that was there. And the crazy thing was, the field was in the shape of I think it was a gimel, the Hebrew letter gimel, and I forgot what the representation of it was, but and my wife pointed it out. She's like, that looks like a gimel. And we looked up the Hebrew word, or the letter for gimel, and I forget what it meant, but whatever it was, it had some significance. To lift up? Is that what it was? I don't remember, but anyway.
Lift up high enough to realize that it's flat.
Yeah. Whatever it was kind of cool. And if you know the Hebrew letter gimel, it landed like in the boot. It's kind of looked like a boot kind of looking thing. The way that field was, it came up like this, and it had this little tiny little alcove on the bottom of it. And that balloon came in, and you could watch it on the footage of the thing coming in. It lands like right there. And we're tracking. And at one point, we lost the signal because our cell phones, our cell phones were like, I don't have any bars. You get any bars? I don't have any bars. We're like, ah! So we're not only we lost the balloon, but we're lost ourselves because we don't know where we are.
Are we in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, we're like, where are we? I don't know. We're driving a little farther, and then it's like as soon as our signal pops back on, we get back on Facebook Live, and we're driving down the road, and Rick looks aside, I look aside, we see a little piece of cloth around the corner from some trees. We're like, I think that's it, man. We slam on the brakes, we park our cars, and then we start running. There's the balloon, and there was the camera, everything was there. So the prayers that were happening, again, you have to watch it, but the trajectory just literally took a 45-degree turn and landed in the only reasonable place that we could have picked it up. So,
Closer to it too.
yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah. Solomon,
Mike wanted to go back on his question, right?
You asked what could we possibly do? And with all the information that we acquired, with all these cool experiments and everything, that we have such a preponderance of knowledge base on this. From my background and Rob as well, I think it's time to make a movie. Now,
It's called a TV series called C.
and that's the point. I'm not talking about a documentary. I'm talking about a drama, because right, exactly.